Good evening. This is the July 29, 2019 meeting of the Zoning Subcommittee. Want to call the roll? Madam Clerk, please.
Roll call of the members of the Zoning Subcommittee. Councilor Janino. Here. Councilor Keefe. Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo is absent. And Chairman Zambuto.
Here.
Here. I'm sorry. And then also ex officio member Councilor Guanasso.
As always,
Is here.
Council President.
Thank you,
There's a
Mr.
quorum
Chairman.
present, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You want to read what's on the agenda here for us?
Sure. There is
Thank you.
one item on the agenda. It's a petition of National Grid to install underground conduits along Ward Street.
Someone from National Grid is here, I believe. State your name, please. Two-second recess here for another microphone. We'll take a quick recess here until we get our technical difficulties straightened out.
Test 1, 2.
Testing. Testing. May I ask you?
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
right, we are.
Test, test, test. No. Oh, yeah, it is. That's right. Oh, so that one's not the one that was not.
Mine works.
Wasn't today. His table was moved today.
It
There were
works.
several meetings between.
Okay, we now reconvene the zoning subcommittee meeting of July 29, 2019. National Grid, name and address, please.
My name's Mike Cordema from 170, from National Grid Electric, 170 Medford Street, Malden. Well, we filed this petition back in 96 or in the 90s when this 175 Ward Street was built. The conductors, the cables were direct buried. They came right off the pole through a sweep and then they went direct buried in the ground. We've had problems over the last few years with cable faults. This conduit is going to be from the pole onto the property. I have a Google Earth picture. It's all grass in the back of the pole where this will be running. So there'll be no sidewalk, no pavement disruption at all. And it'll run into a handhole and then continue on into the customer's transformers.
Certainly makes sense to me. Any committee members? Councilor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike,
Sorry.
is it affecting the building right now?
No, they have power. But
They have power.
They're going to take a planned outage so they can remove and replace this. There's a program going on for all this direct buried cable that's been installed for the last 20-odd years. This is
Temporary cable for 20 years.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're replacing this.
You know, nothing against you, but, National Grid should be ashamed of themselves to have to wait this long to change temporary cables on
Well, no,
somebody's
these are permanent
property.
cables, but they're not permanently, they don't never last that long.
And not against you, because I know you're only the messenger, but I'm not a big supporter of National Grid, because they haven't done much for us. I have streets that are all cut up. Devereaux never came back to repair them. Sidewalks, terrible. All over the old North Shore Road, down Revere Beach Parkway, totally disappointed with it. I mean, you can give a message to Dan Cameron or whoever you want, but if they ever come in for anything new for themselves, I will not vote for them. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt tonight because it's dealing with a customer. But because they come in and just change their pipe, the gas lines, that's for their benefit, not for our benefit. So, just to let you know.
That's always been an issue with us. The gas side is more of a headache to us than it is to themselves, actually. Thank you.
Council President Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ward 3 councilor where this cable is going.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, if this is beneficial to the residents in that particular area, I see no problem at all in getting this done as quickly as possible, as long as it enables the residents there to have a better quality of life. And so I have no objection to this whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And any other colleagues from the subcommittee? Council McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, will not vote for anything that National Grid will come forward with because it's been horrible for my ward, too. I had to go through Speaker DeLeo to get 17 lights fixed. So I won't vote for anything either, but I will honor the ward councilor tonight, and whatever he wants to do, I'll do it.
Anyone else? Well, far be it from me not to support replacing the cable that's malfunctioning. It'd be irresponsible, so I'm certainly going to vote in favor of this tonight. Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Roll call on the petition of National Grid to install underground conduits on Ward Street. Councilor Janino? Yes. Councilor Keefe? Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo is absent. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, this petition will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our zoning subcommittee meeting tonight. I'm sure we'll have one soon. Thank you all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Revere City Council Subcommittee on Public Safety. I'm Ira Novoselsky, Chairman, and I'll list off my committee members. Councilor McKenna, Councilor Patch, Councilor Powers, and Councilor Rotundo. And I want to recognize Council President Arthur Guanasso and Councilor Jessica Janino and Councilor Patrick Keefe that are present to join us tonight. We have four older motions that we have to address tonight. And the first one is 18-352. It's a motion by Council Rizzo that the council requests Dan Cameron from National Grid to appear before a city council subcommittee meeting to discuss measures both the city and residents can take to prepare for winter storms that could cause power outages and how the city and residents can deal with outages should they occur. This motion was put in last October, and I want to recognize Council Rizzo for joining us. This motion was put in last October, and here we are in June. Unfortunately, we haven't had that many subcommittee meetings. So I'm going to give Council Rizzo the floor, if he'd like, on his motion about the winter items from Dan Cameron. Do we want to deal with that now, or you want to waive it and put it in again in September, October? If you wish, we can. For last year, right. Okay, so that'll be tabled. 18-355, another motion by Council Rizzo that the mayor instruct the police chief to appear before the city council to discuss the increase in crime on Broadway, Coolidge Street, and Rose Street as outlined in the October 24th, 2018 edition of the Revere Journal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, well, so this motion obviously was put in many months ago, and clearly the administration and chief have not wanted to recognize the motion. So whatever your wish is to do with this is fine by me. I know that when I opened up the Journal back at that time, and they had talked about the uptick in crime that we were experiencing in the middle of our city, I thought it would be important to have the chief up here to discuss why the Journal would have recognized that, whether it was through crime statistics, calls for service. I'm not sure what prompted that article, but I thought it was important to the people that live in this area that we would have had a discussion with the chief and our public safety subcommittee, but they apparently chose not to appear. So whatever your wishes, Mr. Chairman, I will adhere to. We're here almost in August now, talking about an October article in the Revere Journal. So whatever the rest of the members of the committee feel, I'm okay with at this point, and I'll leave it up to your discretion, Mr. Chairman.
Just two things. Number one, whatever it was cleared up when they put more police officers on Broadway back then, and that's what the Journal discussed at that time. And, I don't believe it's an issue where the chief or the mayor didn't want to come up. We really didn't call them because it was in our subcommittee, and unfortunately, I think one meeting that we had a subcommittee meeting, you were unable to attend, and we left it on the table back then. So I don't believe that it was the mayor or the chief that didn't want to address it at that time. So, Council President Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's the ward I represent, and I had ongoing discussions with the detectives who are working with me on a daily basis to help clear the area up. And to my surprise and to my good wishes, they did a tremendous job in doing so. I mean, obviously, there's going to be isolation of issues, but for the most part, they've cleared up the problem, and it's not as ongoing as it has been. And I didn't make it public because the detectives asked me not to do that.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other committee members, council members? Okay. Well, I guess at this point we can request that it come out to be placed on file. All in favor? All opposed? Vote so ordered. The next item is item 19-098. It's a motion by Council Rotundo asking the Director of Parking to use their discretion when enforcing the provisions of Mass General Laws 9020A.5 relative to the towing of vehicles after receiving 5 or more violations. He stated, please note that the statute reads that the parking clerk may notify, as opposed to shall notify the police chief when they're requesting a vehicle to be towed for a delinquent violation. though towing has been done in the past in accordance with state law. The current enforcement policy of towing any vehicle that has received 5 or more violations that have not been paid after 21 days is draconian and affects the poorest and most vulnerable residents of our community. Any comments from any of the committee members on this? Excuse me? Motion to place on file. All in favor? All opposed? Vote and so ordered. And the last item is 19-104, motion by Council Rotundo that the city of Revere look into the feasibility of placing Narcan and AED devices in facilities that serve the public and have public restrooms. The attempt of this motion is to address the issue of overdosing in public bathrooms and the issue of in-community heart attacks. Any comments from our committee members? Motion to place on file? Motion to place on file. All in favor? All opposed? Motion approved. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that takes care of all our items on public safety for this meeting. And we invite you to stay tuned for our appointment subcommittee. Thank you.
He can stand.
Good evening, everyone. This is the July 29th meeting of the City of Revere's Subcommittee on Appointments. This evening, we have one item on our agenda and two late items that I'll take up during subcommittee. The first is calendar item 19-141, reappointment of Tufts Construction as a licensed drain layer. Is there representatives from Tufts Construction here? Going once. Seeing none, we'll keep that in committee. Actually, Madam Clerk, is that the second time they didn't appear? Can we send them one more notification, and if they don't appear before the next meeting, we'll remove that. All right, two late items that came up as communications that I'm going to take up as late in my subcommittee report. That way the people that are here don't have to stay for the full committee meeting. I'll allow my colleagues to ask any questions during subcommittee. The first is calendar item 19-158, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of William Levy as a licensed constable. Is Mr. Levy here? If you'd like to come before the subcommittee, we'll take you up now. That way you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, and this is a reappointment?
Yes.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Councilor Novoselsky.
No questions. I know Mr. Levy, and, he's worked real hard trying to do the right thing as being a constable, and loves doing it. And I think he's an asset to the being a constable corps. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I also know Mr. Levy. He's a resident of Ward 5. He does an excellent job at everything he does with regard to being a constable, and I wholeheartedly recommend him for reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Council President Quinasso. See what happens when you cut my mic off,
We got to
Council
really
President?
jump down the line here. Well, I had the pleasure of signing the application for Mr. Levy, and it was my pleasure to do so. And I know that you'll do a great job again, as you have in the past, and we look forward to your service in the community. But just don't give me any subpoenas. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Council President. Any other councilors? Seeing as this is favorable of the subcommittee, Mr. Levy, this will be taken up favorably before the council of the whole this evening. There's no need for you to stay in attendance. The clerk's office will forward any information for your reappointment following the meeting. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much.
The last late on the agenda this evening is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Insight Contracting as a licensed drain layer. Is there a representative from Insight here this evening? Great, sir. The name and company address for the record?
Jeff Gordon, Insight Contracting.
Great. So this is a reappointment. This was brought up before myself and the clerk's office as they have some projects coming up in the city, so we wanted to get them appointed at this meeting so that they can continue the work they're already doing in the city of Revere. Do any of my colleagues have any questions?
If I may, Madam Chairman. Sir, what projects are you working on?
Well, for the city here, we just started the North Shore Road Water Main Crossing Project.
North Shore Road at,
North Shore Road Water Main Crossing over by Alice Street and Vera Street.
okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam President. That's the new water line you're talking about
That's
that's
correct.
going in there?
Yes,
And this is what, phase 1 of that water line?
that's phase one.
That's going to run from North Shore Road, from the easterly side over to the westerly side to Alice and Vera Streets.
That's
And
correct.
then the second phase, I guess, is under the tracks there, under the B&M tracks?
We're not involved with this.
I know, yeah,
phase.
but-
It's just in development right now.
Yeah, but you're bringing the line in that's going to feed that second phase, am I correct?
Yes,
And this is going to increase the water pressure down on Oak Island,
that is correct.
and for public safety, and to give the people down there a little relief if that other water line that goes under the tracks does go down, am I
That is
correct?
correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Any other councilors? All right, thank you for your attendance this evening. Seeing as this was seen favorably by the subcommittee, it'll be taken up by the whole committee this evening and recommended favorably, so there's no need for you to stay in attendance. The clerk will follow up with you after the meeting to send any paperwork that you need to have signed.
Great, thank you for your time.
Thank you. This concludes the appointment subcommittee. The regular city council meeting will start in just a few moments. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it down until the chief. Yes.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Revere City Council meeting of July 29th. Please rise and salute the flag, and please join the City Council in this tribute.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Janino. Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito. Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rotundo.
Present.
Here. Councilor Zambuto.
Here.
Here. And Council President Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. Approval of the journal of the regular meeting of June 17th, 2019.
So moved.
All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Prior to this evening's meeting, I have a couple of announcements to make. The first being a very sad note that during this past week, we lost a very devoted person within our community. His name is Mickey No Drugs Casoli. And he is an individual who will be sorely lost by each and every one of the youth who he tried to send the message very loud and clear about no drugs. And so we honor him this evening, and we honor his memory if we stand in a moment of silence. Thank you. The other announcement being, as we have several motions where you haven't met for a few weeks, I'm going to ask the City Council as a reminder for our rules of order. We're going to take all of the motions up this evening. We're going to stick to the 3-minute rule. It's approved by each and every one of these councilors, and that goes for everybody in the audience. So just to let everybody know before we start the meeting, that's what way the presentations are going to be this evening. Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 3, ETP scholarship certificates will be awarded to 4 Revere High School recipients.
The mayor will offer a very short presentation for the ETP scholarship recipients. Mr. Mayor. Whatever you want to do. And Superintendent Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to let the superintendent speak on our 4 wonderful young folks that received ETP scholarships this year. I am just very proud of the fact that We have such great talent in our school district, and it's a testament to the great work that Dr. Kelly does. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the council for recognizing these incredible students tonight. The ETP scholarships are made possible through our partnership with Comcast, who sets aside a certain amount of their funding in order for us to give these scholarships to Revere students, citizens of Revere, who have demonstrated themselves to be outstanding students, outstanding members of the community, and promise for the future. So we're really proud of these 4 individuals. The scholarships are in the amount of $2,000 each, which is not insignificant. And we're very proud to present them tonight to Emily DiGiulio. If Emily wants to come up. Emily will be attending Syracuse University next year.
Thank you.
Hey, Emily, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Stay up for a picture.
Sorry, my Sandy.
Do you mind if we
Oh, I always forget this.
No, no more. Open up. I'm all done.
Yeah, I gotcha. I might take a wheel on.
You guys gonna move in?
You're coming in.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Photo.
Open up.
Yeah, open it.
Don't lose the check.
Like you're not used to this?
Thank you.
Our next recipient is Brendan Gordino, who will be attending UMass Amherst in the fall.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. Just watch the
Don't lose the check.
importance. Oh, one more.
You're not anxious to get out of here, right?
Our next recipient is Rambaz Doc, who is attending Roger Williams College in the fall.
Congratulations.
The envelopes of cash.
Keep getting them on the phone. Congratulations. And our 4th recipient is Julia Tran, who wasn't able to make it here tonight, but Julia will be attending Dartmouth in the fall.
Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 4, certificates of appreciation will be awarded to Nick Malazan, Joyce DiNuccio, Jane Rizzo, Debbie West, Sophia Forgione, Pamela Anderson, Eric Lampadecchio, Rose Napolitano, Heather Ledger, Kelly Edmonds, and the owner of Volare, Chris Salerno, for their efforts in making the Revere Senior Prom a very successful event.
Councilor George Rotundo will present certificates of appreciation to the Revere Senior Prom Committee.
They're in alphabet? I'm just wondering if I just have everybody come up at once. What do you think?
If that's what you desire, yeah, that would make sense. Can everybody come all?
Actually, for all of you, if you all could come up and I'll individually hand them out to you, if that would be good, Nick. It's just going to be, there's so many, and I think it would be a great thing to do to get everybody in at once. Joey? So what people are probably wondering, what's this all about? You know, every year we have a senior prom, a citizen, Revere Senior Citizen Senior Prom. And if it wasn't up for these people here, all these fine individuals, and I'm going to recognize them one by one, the event wouldn't have happened this year. And from this year forward, these people, I don't know if I should say led by Nick Malayson or by all of you. No, I'm not going to go that far, Rose. I don't want to get on your bad side. But in all sincerity, this is an event that our seniors can go to. And if there's any one thing that you know about people, is the ability to go and congregate and meet each other. It's a blessing. And, you know, working as a nurse and seeing this firsthand, you know, in various settings, but then to have this in a joyful manner as a prom, I think it's a great thing. And I am so happy that they actually pulled it together in such a quick period of time, because if I'm not mistaken, it might not have happened this year. And that said, I'd like to individually thank them, and I'm going to have Dan help me because there's way too many of them. So I'm going to ask Dan if you could take half, and I'll take half. And I'm going to read the first one. It's going to be Joyce DiNuccio. And this is a certificate of appreciation, acknowledgement of your organizational efforts to make the first biannual Revere Senior Citizen Prom a successful event, which included the food, music, and fun for all our senior citizens to enjoy. And this special recognition is hereby accorded to you, Joyce DiNuccio. This certificate of appreciation is presented by the City Council of the City of Revere on behalf of its citizens this 29th of July in the year of our Lord 2020 and of the independence of the United States of America, the 200th and 43rd. Joyce, I want to thank you again personally. Thank you. Thank you. And please come up because I want you to take a big photo with everybody.
Well, rather, I don't know, if this is Councilor Rotundo's motion, so if you want me to read the whole citation again, or just read the names off?
The name, we'll do
So we'll
that.
just read the names, but Councilor Rotundo was nice enough to allow me to assist him with this. And I just want to reiterate some of the things he said about what a great night that it was, and it's a tradition that started many years ago under then State Representative Bill Reinstein and Revere First. They were staunch supporters of this event, and they managed to continue, to keep it going, to give our senior citizens a great night out. And I have to say, anyone that was there or is familiar with the event would totally understand what I mean when I say a great night out, because every senior citizen there had a wonderful time. Actually, this year they incorporated a lot of the kids from the high school who deserve a great shout out. They did a tremendous job in interacting with the seniors. And so all in all, it was just a great, and it's something I think that just adds to the fabric of this community. Every event like that, where you can invite, a group out, in this case, a bunch of senior citizens to enjoy a night that's free to them, and with the help of, people who donate their time, their money, to support an event like this is just a great thing. So I was very happy to support it, and actually very, very happy to be up here tonight recognizing these great individuals who made it all happen. So this one goes to Kelly Edmonds. Kelly?
Don't go too far. Come over here. We're going to go onto the right side. And of course, we wouldn't forget her husband, Joey McEdmonds, for his great help and assistance. Thank you. Am I following her? Yeah.
And the next one goes to Eric Lampadecchio.
And of course, Rose Napolitano.
Yay!
Don't hit me.
Thank you.
Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
My pleasure. And this one goes to Jane Rizzo.
And Heather Laguerre. Thank you, Heather. Is Chris here? No, I'm here. I'm going to switch over. And this is for Chris Salerno, the owner of Valari's, who had donated both his time and much of the food. All the food. So that said, I'm sorry he's not here.
This one goes to Nick Malazan. Nick, congratulations.
Sophia Forgione. I don't know why I said it was.
And this one goes to Debbie West.
You're welcome. This one would be going to Pamela Anderson, and unfortunately she's not here. And I don't know who to give this to. I think I'm going to give it to Nick because Nick will take care of this.
Thank you.
That said, I want to thank you all once again for your tireless efforts, and more importantly, I hope to see you next year. And if I got the time, I'll show up myself. And I encourage anybody and everybody that knows someone who is a senior to actually participate next year. Anybody else have any comments?
Stay still for a picture. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you guys got to crowd in a little bit.
Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 5, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $9.2 million for the Alden Mills Point of Pines Fire Station.
This public hearing is for the loan order of $9.2 million for the Alden Mills Point of Pines Fire Station. Any proponents? Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Hit the button? Okay, I thought it was. I'm a little short, yeah. Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Ann Straccia at 1 Leonard Road, and I'm here to support Councilor Powers on voting tonight for the for the fire station. I just want to tell you a little story of why I am so for this. Not quite a year ago, August 28th, I had an accident. Bad accident in my house. Now, if it wasn't for the North Shore, for the fire truck to be there, I wouldn't be here tonight talking to you. I'm on a blood thinner. I hit my head. I thought I hit my head, and I was holding the wrong place, and my pajamas were full of blood. But when the fire engines came, in a matter of seconds, they showed me that it was my eye that was bleeding profusely, not my head. I was holding the wrong thing. Okay? Like I said, I am very lucky that that fire truck was not out, because if it was out, what fire truck would come? Broadway, Suffolk Downs, Beachmont? I think I would have bled out. As I got into, when the first responders came, the ambulance, and I did go into the ambulance, I was out like a light. I woke up the following day in ICU. My son had told me I was out all that time. They were trying to save my eye, but they couldn't. Okay, I called it half a tragedy. I'm here, I'm glad, and I'm glad I can tell my story, but we do need to vote on this Pines fire station. We really need another fire station, because like I said, if that truck wasn't there, I wouldn't be here tonight. And I thank you, and I thank Councilor Powers for all the work he's done, with all the tragedies he's had, and he still is fighting for that station for us. And I thank him very much, and I hope everybody else will too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your appearance. Mr. Mayor, the fire chief, are you available?
Mr. President.
It's on.
It's on, right?
It's on.
Mr. President, on behalf of the residents and on behalf of the administration, it's my pleasure to be here in favor of New Pines Fire Station and the bond authorization that will make that happen. As I think every member of the council knows, this has been a priority for the city since I took office, in terms of modernizing and making sure that we're providing the best services to our residents, like Ann, and that was an amazing story. We are investing in our community. We're looking forward, and this is just another step that the council, I hope, will take tonight to make sure that the city of Revere provides the best services and the highest level of services in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Bright,
Fire Chief.
400 Broadway. Mr. President, councilors, we're asking for your support tonight on this. This is something that I feel that time is of the essence. We should not delay. We should move forward on this. My past 3 years as chief, I've seen it down the Point of Pines. I've seen how the weather's changed, the storm surging. That's isolated that area of the city. It's very difficult to get down there when the flooding starts. on that riverside, and even we've seen it on the Rice Avenue side. That station will serve this city, and it'll increase our responses. It'll lessen our response time down that area. It's much needed. We have just got a 25-foot boat this year that the Point of Pines Yacht Club has been nice enough to let us keep down there, and we're going to need a place to store it. And that Point of Pines fire station that we'd like to build would be the logical place to put it. And again, it's much needed, and it won't just enhance the Point of Pines area. It'll enhance the fire protection and rescue for the entire city. I can promise you that. Also, we have with us the Winter Street Architects. We have Paul Duran and Dana Weeder here also to make they did the feasibility study for us. If you have any questions or to see any renditions of what the plan that we came up with, we're here to answer any questions. So,
Thank you very much, Chief. Any other proponents?
Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. As the chief alluded to, this fire station is sorely needed. The residents of the Riverside and Point of Pines have had a lapse in protection, and response times to get down there are far too long. I speak in favor of this motion, as I've spoken in favor of previous motions in favor of getting the Pines a new fire station. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person wishing to speak?
Yes. I'm George Anzoni, the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'm in favor of this and want to be listed as a proponent. It's a great idea, not only for public safety, well, basically for public safety. And I think some of us were here in 1978 when we had the blizzard of 78, an amazing part of the whole deal. When everything else was flooding, people were putting their cars on this site to keep them out of the water. So this site has shown in the past that it hasn't flooded. It's a great site, and again, with the development in the city and the response time that's going to be needed, this is something that I am definitely in favor of and like to be listed, not only financially, but as a citizen of Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any other person wishing to speak? State your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, Hugo Rizzuto, 261 Rice Ave.
Welcome,
Point of Pines. Thank you. On my way here today, it took me 17 minutes to reach from my house, which is basically where the fire station is going, to the fire station right near Suffolk Downs. 17 minutes. It took me 25 minutes to reach this point, and I was traveling against the traffic to get a fire engine from either Suffolk Downs or this location down here by the city. It's almost impossible with the traffic either going up the beach or going up North Shore Road. So it goes without saying, it's a no-brainer that a fire station is a dire necessity, not only for the Point of Pines, but all of that area, you know, coming down the beach and everything in back of that section there. So I urge this council to vote in favor of it, and if possible, take a vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. Any other? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Paul Duran of Winter Street Architects, designers of the station. And obviously, I'm a proponent, but what I wanted to inform the community is included in our station is a 1,500 square foot community room that can serve as a polling station, or emergency housing in situations of storm surge or flooding. So it's an added benefit to the community that the fire station is presenting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other wishing to speak? And I will, while the speaker is coming to the podium, I will state this early on, that I spoke with the chairman of Ways and Means, Councilor Rizzo, and he graciously enough realizes the importance of this issue. And normally we would send this to the subcommittee. It's at his call, and he wishes that it goes out tonight for a vote. So I just want everyone to know that when he comes to the podium, this will be voted on this evening, and we can thank Councilor Rizzo for his fine efforts of telling us to go ahead.
Okay.
Name and address of the record, please.
Carol Haney,
Hi, Carol.
72 Fowler Avenue. I'm just coming here in support of this, and I want to thank Councilor Powers for all of the work that he has done to get us a police station, fire station down in the Point of Pines. If you saw the traffic last week alone, last weekend, or any weekend, you realize that we are in desperate need down there for a fire station. And I urge you all to vote positively. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none. Councilors, any councilor? Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I think this is something that we all, at one time or another, have fought for, have enjoined our colleagues on. Frankly, as the city continues to grow, and particularly down on the beach, as more importantly, the age of those people that are down there continue to grow, it is vitally important. Whenever there is a call, seconds, minutes, means the difference between life and death. Whether it be due to an overdose, or whether it be due to someone falling and, as you pointed out, who's on a blood thinner and bleeding, it's vitally important. Or for that matter, someone having a heart attack or a diabetic event. It is vitally important. And to have these men and women that are behind you all tonight is vitally important that we get them that station to put them there. They're the ones who are going to be there when you need them the most. They're the ones who are going to be there when your neighbor needs them or someone you love needs them. And more importantly, I support you all in this effort, and I will be voting yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, for several years now, have been trying to get that station open down there. Not open a new station, okay? And I've spoken with people in the construction trade, architects, people that have designed fire stations in the past, and it would cost almost just as much money to rebuild the old fire station versus building a brand new fire station. And when you get done, you would have what probably we need one of the most down there, two things: the water rescue unit and a ladder truck. You can't keep building wood frame construction 4 and 5 stories high and not have the equipment to adequately address it. We have one of the best fire departments in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And sadly enough, I have had to call on them a couple of times for family incidents. And I want to publicly thank them right now. I also want to thank Chief Bright, who traveled to Arlington with me on a couple of occasions, looking at what they were doing over there. I want to thank Mayor Arrigo for listening and working to make this happen. And I also want to thank my colleagues on the City Council that recognize the need for that station. And hopefully, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, we'll be sitting here getting ready to go down there and break ground, to cut the ribbon, rather, for a new fire station. And thank you very much, everyone, and my colleagues, thank you once again.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And welcome back.
Thank you. I just want to say that we had the same problem up in North Revere, and we were able to get a station up there put in, and it's helped my ward greatly. And you know, I've been listening to my colleague, Councilor Powers, for 12 years now, fighting this battle, and we kind of joke with him about it, but it's really a serious matter for the people down there, and I will be voting yes for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Giannino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a microphone, and neither does my colleague over here, so we're sharing with Councilor McKenna. If there's one thing that you really can't put a price tag on when you're looking at a city, it's public safety. And I would go so far as to say that we have the best fire department in the Commonwealth. And we need to give them all the tools that they need to provide the services that they do for our residents that keep them safe. Because that's one thing that you can't have a productive city without. We all know the traffic and the concerns down the beach and how difficult it is to traverse that area throughout the city and throughout different times of the day. We also are aware of all the different hazards that are in that area, such as, the apartments and the age of the residents and the proximity to the waterfront. And these are all concerns and reasons why there needs to be a fire department there. We can't have, I don't want to say we have difficult response times. Our fire department does an amazing job with the resources they have to respond to people down the beach and in the pines and in those isolated areas in remarkable times. But if we give them the tools they need to be successful, we can do even better. And I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the mic. This to me is a no-brainer. I know that I represent a different side of the city, but as we all know, when there's a need on the Point of Pines, on the Pine side, typically the response comes from other firehouses, and then everything gets pushed over. Sometimes more often than not, Central Fire has to be covered by other units. So this helps the entire city with response times and protecting all the corners of Revere. Like I said, it's a no-brainer. We have a growing population. There's immense needs out there. The fire department does a terrific job, and this is long overdue. We all know that. I've been hearing Councilor Powers talk about this well before I was even on the council, so I'm excited to be able to help him today, and the residents of Revere especially. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know it's been said that Councilor Powers has been asking about this for some time, and he has been asking for some time. And it's been talked about and talked about and talked about, and I think it has finally reached a critical point, as people have pointed out, that I think the chief mentioned about how the weather patterns have changed, how the storm surge is changing, and certainly the traffic is changing. There was always traffic, but traffic at certain hours. Now we've got traffic virtually any time between 1 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 o'clock at night. And it has to make the fire department's job that much more difficult when trying to respond during peak traffic hours to respond to either a fire or a medical emergency. So this right now is not as maybe it would have been looked at 5, 10 years ago, 12, actually, John goes back 15, 20 years. It's no longer a luxury, it is a necessity now. This is something that people need down there, and I am happy and proud to support this loan order tonight so we can break ground and get started. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morbido.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I could tell you about 8 to 10 years ago, this was a farce. People would be like, John Powers Fire Station down the Pines, never going to happen. Pipe dreams, okay? And it got done. I applaud him for all his efforts. Every single day of his tenure as city council, he campaigned for this fire station, even when everyone thought it was just a pipe dream. So with that said, to have a full-service fire station at Point of Pines within close proximity of the Oak Island area, Revere Beach, and the Riverside area, this is essential to responding to medical needs to those in those areas, especially when there's flooding or during peak traffic hours. This speeds up the response time. And it is essential to city services. More important, it's essential to keeping someone alive, because time is a matter of life or death in some situations. So you can count on my support.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm in favor of this, and John knows this. I know that Lynn is going to break ground soon over the bridge of Point of Pines, and I've heard that they were going to put 4,500 units on the waterfront over the bridge. This isolates Point of Pines with the traffic coming off of Revere Beach. And if there was ever a tragedy, they wouldn't be able to get over the bridge if this building is going to be constructed. So I'm definitely for this. I don't want to steal Councilor Powers' thunder, and maybe after this Point of Pine Station is open and built, I would like to see Beachmont, our fire station in Beachmont, either have a response there and not be empty. So, but I am in favor of this, and God bless John Powers for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, this has been a vision for many years up here, but I think going back to as far back as Tom Ambrosino, it was always expected that when the transit-oriented development was built out fully, hopefully there would be the funding for the Pines Fire Station. Everybody knows with all the construction that went on that this is certainly needed. And the good news is that we can actually afford it now. And so I'm thrilled, and I know this has been a vision of Council Powers, but I like to say most of us that have been up here for quite a while, it's been our vision also, but it wasn't realistic at the time. Now is the time, and I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, ever since John and I have been on the council, it's always been out of his voice. Ira, I need a new fire station on the Pines. Then I need a new fire station on Freeman Street. We need it, Ira. He says, John, I know. We tried, and we tried, but thank God everything is working out well for the city of Revere. The mayor has done a great job with his stabilization fund, with the free cash, and we can work on a nice bonds for these $9.2 million. I know when we needed a new fire station down in Shirley Ave and to cover Beachmont, we got the Revere Beach Parkway station. We have to do it differently because the engines and the pumpers are larger than normal. We can't fit into the old buildings, and that's why I mentioned Freeman Street, because that's going to be down the road. But with all due respect to my firefighter buddies and the chief and everybody, we also need a new public works facility. And hopefully that's next on our agenda. I know we have to do a lot of things. You guys are coming on board. Hopefully we can get to DPW, and then hopefully someday we can get back to doing Freeman Street and get that one redone. But I'm 1,000% in favor of this. I supported Ward 6 even before they had it, screaming about it. Thank God we got Overlook Ridge and the city of Malden together and build a station up there for 2 sets of fire apparatus. But there's a very important thing with all that is happening on the beach and Ocean Ave. And we just have to do it, and hopefully it'll be done quickly and better than ever. And I hope that everybody that gets to use it enjoys it and appreciates it, because we appreciate you guys and gals that are doing and working there and putting everything on the line. So thank you very much. I will be in favor of this, and look forward to voting on it tonight. Thank you.
Councilor. The only thing I can say is Ward 3 has benefited twice from the actions of the fire department. Namely, when we got the fire station in Ward 6, it benefited all those east of Broadway and all those that are at Northgate, and that was a big help to us, giving relief to the lower end of Revere Street where they were unprotected, and they had Freeman Street there. But once Freeman Street was out, we were in trouble. Now, with this Pines Fire Station, this is going to give us major relief, and I think this is going to be just what we need. And this will benefit my ward drastically. And I'm so pleased and happy that this day has come. I'm glad to be part of it. I've been on the council long enough now to have 2 new fire stations built to protect my area. I saw the other one down on the Parkway. So we're doing good things. And so this is a positive for all of us in the city, and we should all be thankful for it. It just not only takes care of the Pines, it takes care of the city, because all the other stations are free to do and to react to the emergencies as they occur in a quick fashion. We all know that's the essence of this. So at this particular time, I'm going to ask a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $9.2 million for the construction of a new Alden Mills, Point of Pines Fire Station? Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido? Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guinasso?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved.
Mr. President,
Congratulations.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Councilor Powers.
I'd like to ask for immediate reconsideration in hopes that it does not prevail.
Reconsideration with the whole suspension of rules. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Reconsideration does not prevail. Thank you. And while we're at that, I'd like to suspend rules to take up calendar item number 22. And prior to that, I would like to recognize our esteemed representative, Rosalie Vincent, who's in the audience with us this evening. Welcome to the Revere City Council chambers, where all the city's business is done. Thank you. On suspension, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Madam Clerk, 22.
Calendar item number 22, communication from the mayor relative to the Sonny Myers Park Grant.
Is there anyone here to represent the application for the Sonny Myers Park grant? State your name and address for the record, please, and thank you for waiting.
L. Baker, 59 Witherby Ave.
And
And there's a communication from the mayor's office in regards to a park grant for Sonny Myers. This is the park grant that we do apply for annually. It is with the help of this particular grant that we were able to restore and renovate Harmon Park as well as Gibson Park. There is a 68% paid for if this grant is awarded by Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And in order to be approved for the funding, we would be required to pay 32%.
any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is in my ward, and Sonny Myers is the most used park in the city. And it's really in need of upgrade. I think Elle told me that it hasn't been upgraded in 30 years.
Yes, close to 30 years.
30 years. So I would be in favor of this. I know Parks and Recreation uses it, Immaculate Conception uses it, other people use it, and it's very well used. So I really think it really needs to be upgraded, and I would love my colleagues to vote on this tonight.
Well, that's the wishes of the chair, and it's
Okay,
shall the city council grant the petition of national, we're in a 22. Yes, hold on. Another issue came up in between. I was working on that. Shall the city council approve a resolution to file and accept grants with and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for the parkland acquisitions and renovations for communities grant program for construction and improvements to Sonny Myers Park. A roll call is in order.
On the resolution, Councilor Janino? Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guinasso?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Thank you. While we're under suspension of rules, I'd like to take up calendar item number 44. Madam Clerk. It's a motion offered by Councilor Patch.
Yes.
And a welcome back motion.
Calendar item number 44, motion presented by Councilor Patch that the mayor request the Traffic Commission to hold a hearing relative to the installation of a temporary do not enter sign on Salem Street at the Clifton Street traffic island.
Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a matter that was brought up at the North Revere Neighborhood group meeting this beginning of the month, and this was placed temporary, and it got quite a discussion. So they requested that they could, if we could send it to the Traffic Commission, who has the authority on this matter, to what they're planning on doing, taking it down, or keep it. They can only keep it as a temporary for a certain period. So they'll have to put a public hearing for a permanent sign. So it's a do not enter sign on Clifton Street, on Salem Street, by Salem Street. So I request that my colleagues send it to the Traffic Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I've got many complaints from residents that live up in that area. This is a case of residents being negatively impacted unnecessarily. There was no reason for that sign to go up. It was working fine. The residents up there were fine with it. And one person, apparently, from what I can gather, one person adjacent to that particular location decided they wanted to have a sign put up, and it's put that whole neighborhood really up in an uproar. I mean, there is no reason to put them out the way they were. And now I see a resident here that wants to speak on it, and he was asking about potentially getting a petition signed. I mean, it's unbelievable why we would have to want to put our residents through this for absolutely no reason. So I just want to go on record as supporting Councilor Patch's motion, and I'm sure you'll hear from Mr. Chianca here in a minute.
Thank you, Councilor Rizzo. State your name and address for the record, please.
Tony Chanka, 13 Clifton Street, North Revere. And thank you for taking us a little early. I got a medical condition that this helped out. This started a nightmare. This has been one of the earliest building programs, probably over 100 years, that street's been two-way. It's only 15 houses. And the guy in the garage wanted to put up because he wants to put more cars out in the street. We don't have sidewalks. We don't have white lines. And from what I understood, they have a 100-year license to operate a garage in that area. I've never heard of it. Maybe it's been that way. I'm not sure. But the plan that I found out that they had, it showed a plan for 12 cars. It's got 38 vehicles on there. In the back of the property, there's 22 vehicles that haven't moved in 10 years. And it looks a disgrace. It's this overgrown with weeds and this and that. I'd rather see them paint some lines. We're not going to get sidewalks and curbs, I understand that. But at least do something. Have a hearing. Talk to the few neighbors that live here, the 15 houses, see what they say. We read it at North Revere group at the hotel once a month, and everybody was upset about it, and no one even knew about it. And I myself made the turn that I've made for the last 20 years, and I get halfway through, I see do not enter, and I stop. Good thing the guy behind me was way behind, or I would have been smashed into the rear end. And it's upset the whole neighborhood, and we have nothing but seniors up there. And he's got a very bad attitude toward the seniors. And one senior, he physically threw her out of the garage when she went down to try to express her opinion and started swearing at her. And no one does that to an 86-year-old grandmother. You know what I mean? It's got out of control. It's got to stop. You know what I mean? If we got to favor one business that has no license, he's working off the other people that own the property's license. I don't understand that there. I always thought a garage in the city had to get a license every year and stuff like that there. So the technicality like that, I don't understand. I just want to put this to rest. It's a small neighborhood. We just want to get along. We don't want to fight, and we don't want to live in fear in our neighborhood. You know, we just
This
want-
motion will get you there.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, through to Tony.
Sorry.
That garage, it's been, how long have they been there?
He's
You know-
been there about 10 years, I think, himself. It's been the garage owners
Do we
before
know
him.
if he has a Class 2 license?
I don't really know. Ashley might know about the license more than anybody. But as far as I know, he doesn't have an operator. He's working off the owners of the property's license. And at that group meeting, the police officer was there, and I said, "Do you need a license to operate a garage in Revere?" He said, "No, he just fixes cars there. He doesn't need a license."
Yeah.
And that kind of threw me off, and I wasn't
Mr.
sure
President,
about that, yeah.
at some point, whether it's immediately following this motion, that we make a motion that the License Commission investigate whether or not he has a Class 2 license, and have the Revere Police Department go up there and count the number of cars that he has, if he does have one, to make sure he's compliant with everything he's supposed to have in the city of Revere.
Yeah, we can do that without a motion, and a simple call to the License Commission. They'll know within 10 seconds whether he has a license or not.
We're not trying to
And then
put him
we
on.
can react to that.
We're not trying to put the gentleman out of
Okay.
business. You know what I mean? We
And
want
that's not germane to
we
this
want
right
to be a
now.
good
This is
neighbor.
on the do not enter sign, and that's what we're going to deal
I
with.
mean, it could have been solved 2 months ago if the sign just came down the next
Tony
day.
will take care of it.
Thank you, and I
Trust me.
appreciate.
All in
thank
favor,
you.
all opposed?
Thank you, folks.
So ordered. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. While we're under suspension of rules, is there any way we can take up calendar items
I thought we-
29 and 41? The state reps here to speak on them as well.
What are they?
They're on Wheelabrator, so
What-
29 and 41. They kind of go hand in hand, but I know she's here to speak on those if need be. So in interest of time, we can
Madam Clerk,
address those.
calendar item number 29.
Calendar item number 29, motion presented by Councilors Rizzo and Powers, that the mayor request the Inspectional Services Department to investigate excessive noise emanating from Wheelabrator and advance discussions to mitigate impacts to residents of the Riverside and Point of Pines.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So this motion was submitted back several weeks ago in anticipation of this meeting. In the meantime, I believe that the sound issue has been resolved, although I don't know for the life of me why they didn't have the foresight to prepare for whether I think it had to do with repairing a particular turbine or whatever it was, but they did not take the proper precautions to protect the residents of certainly of the Riverside, from excessive noise that would have bothered anybody in that vicinity. There's a lot of other things, obviously, that we know Wheelabrator is addressing and dealing with. I know Saugus has been dealing with them, and and I believe have been subjected to fines through the town of Saugus. But we recently attended a meeting at the Point of Pines Yacht Club, and if you had seen the turnout, Mr. President, it was quite impressive. People that were concerned about anything from public health to the environment, and the like. So I think that we need to keep a very close eye on that facility to protect our residents, in particular in the Riverside and the Point of Pines. They deal with a lot. I know as a community, we all deal with air traffic, but they seem to get piled on with the addition of the hazard that Wheelabrator brings. And so, I just think we need to keep a very close eye on them to make sure for the benefit of our residents. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rizzo. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the councilor that represents that area down there and the Point of Pines in its entirety, and as a matter of fact, even Lower Revere Street, Oak Island. The noise, when I went down there on several occasions, was horrendous. And the answers I were given by Wheelabrator was that every 7 years they have to rebuild the turbines that supply electricity, I believe, to General Electric. And that may be so. However, it would seem to me that if you're going to create a situation where you're going to have noise impacting a neighborhood, if it's necessary, you don't do it in the middle of the summer. You do it when people have their windows closed and they don't have to listen to that horrendous noise. And I dare say today, if that facility were to be proposed anywhere in the United States of America, not just the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I believe with the existing safeguards that they don't have down there, it would be denied. It would be denied. So there's a meeting at the Board of Health in Saugus on August 5th. I intend to be going to that meeting, and for whatever voice I can lend to the end of that situation down there, I certainly will. But it's going to take, there are other issues involved here. And I believe really that one of the things that the state has to get involved in is the governor's office has to get involved and pick up the phone and call DEP, the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, and say, listen, stop the noise. Find another place to put your act together. I don't care if it takes 3 years or 5 years. They have to start planning it now because that facility does not belong there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to fit in over here. I want to commend my colleagues on the next two motions, 29 and 41, and I'm going to speak very briefly because they're so closely connected. We had a meeting down in the Point of Pines Yacht Club, a group called the Alliance, which is members from Revere and Saugus, and basically anyone that's impacted by Wheelabrator is more than welcome to join us, but it's primarily Revere and Saugus. And Representative Vincent has really been a champion for our community in trying to hold this facility accountable and, you know, making sure the voices of our residents are heard. And as my colleague, Councilor Rizzo, mentioned, the meeting was very, very well attended. And the people there were very passionate, and it's impacting their daily lives in a way that people that live in other parts of the city can't even begin to understand. It affects their sleep, it affects their health, it affects all of our health, but they're directly impacted. I want to commend my colleagues for putting this motion in. I wholeheartedly support this and the next, but I'm only going to speak on this motion. And I want to thank our state leadership for really championing this issue and making sure that our voices are heard, because as a city, Revere is limited because we're an abutter. We're not the host, but I think we have great people representing us, and we're making great steps to represent our community as best we can in making sure that we hold them accountable, because a month of noise is completely not acceptable, especially during the summer months when these residents want to enjoy their beautiful waterfront properties and spend time outside and enjoy their homes. So thank you for your leniency tonight, Mr. President, and for listening to us, and I look forward to seeing these go through.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I got you.
Mr. President, for the last 6 months, I've gotten emails upon emails upon emails about Wheelabrator on the riverside, and I feel very badly for those folks. But I'm just, the latest that I've heard going down, you know, from sources. I know the meeting at Point of Pines Yacht Club was not only attended by Revere residents, but also by Saugus residents. Now, this facility is in Saugus. Our Board of Health or Special Services do not have any authority to go into the city, into the town of Saugus. We can investigate something, but we can't do anything about it. Now, and God bless everybody that's worked hard on it. I don't take that away from you, but I just talk about the facts of what I'm getting. That Wheelabrator is no longer making the noise, that it's now coming from General Electric, which is right next to Wheelabrator. Now, if we're going to go after Wheeler Brader, we should go after General Electric also. Now, again, they're not in our district either. They're in Lynn. They're in Lynn. Wheeler Brader's in Saugus. So, I just question the legality of our inspectional services department going into another town. We can do sound bites, at decibel levels, and let Saugus know about it. But I just, it's very difficult to be able to prove things. And I understand that I saw a letter from DEP that they went up there just within the last 2 weeks and didn't find any issues with the current situation there. And then I heard that DEP also did a surprise investigation at GE and did find problems there. So, I think we ought to be careful on where we send our people, and whether or not we should stay in our jurisdiction. Now, we're going to take 41 up separately, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Yes, we are taking up.
Okay. I'll hold off on that.
Thank you, Council. Council Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, my colleague said something I was going to say. Obviously, we don't have the jurisdiction to go to another town. But I got to clear up a little bit of the misinformation. We all got the emails, and we got the emails from all the residents, and they went to all the city councilors. So everybody knows exactly what happened at Wheeler Brader, and it's not what's being portrayed here right now. What happened is during a normal maintenance issue that is not the major maintenance issue, they discovered that the turbine needed to be rebuilt. In conjunction with DEP, they had to send the turbine out to be rebuilt and had to vent the steam through a different system. It turned out it was noisy, and there was some serious noise for several days. What they did was sent out and got a very extravagant thing called the silencer. It's like, over $250,000 to put on this steam for the temporary venting of the steam. And it corrected it for a short period of time when one burner was going on. When the second burner was lit, it was discovered that the silencer couldn't handle 2 burners. So they shut that burner down. In the process, there was some noise. So what did Wheeler Brader do? They had to continue to take our trash and the surrounding area's trash. They decided to shut the plant down for a few days. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But they took into consideration that the neighbors were being bothered by the noise. And they were creating the noise. And they knew it. And just as an aside, there was some talk about fines and stuff. There has been no violations through DEP. And the waste-to-energy business is the most regulated business in this state. The most regulated. No fines, no violations. Okay? And I've heard a lot about the noise that's coming now. I received a few emails. The noise that's going on now is not related to Wheeler Brader. I'm not going to point the finger at anybody. Somebody says they're testing jet engines. I don't know that for a fact, but that's the noise, and people are saying in an email I got, absolutely do testing. And don't give more misinformation. They do testing of jet engines up there. But the bottom line is that's what the recent noise has been, high-pitched jet engine noise. That's what I'm told in a couple of emails from the people that were circulating the emails in the first place. And again, DEP is monitoring all of this. The bottom line is we have no jurisdiction from Revere to go to Saugus. But I've been on top of Wheeler Brader since this thing happened, and I've been in touch to see exactly what's going on. When I hear that there's noise up there, I contact them immediately. DEP is involved immediately. Anytime there's a noise complaint, They've been out there with noise meters. There's been nothing more than normal neighborhood noise, according to the sound testing equipment by engineers. So that's what's going on. That's all I'm going to say about this, but we certainly don't have jurisdiction to go to Saugus with our inspectional services.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I'm not going to get into the back and forth of whether they test jet engines over at the GE in Lynn. I do know that they do make and helicopter engines there, but I never heard of them working on any jet engines, but I could be wrong. That said, the noise has been a big issue, and it's a temporary issue, of course. The bigger issue for me is the actual facility. And as far as I'm concerned, I would like the city to start working towards a zero waste stream. And the sooner we start doing that, the better off this community will be. We have a very, very good tipping fee structure with Wheeler Breda, which happened underneath Mayor Rizzo's term. And to my chagrin, if we were to do anything with that, we would have a great financial issue in the hundreds of thousands of dollars at the very least if we were to walk away from that deal. Personally, sir, and the gentleman from Wheeler Breda is here, and I appreciate you coming, and this is not personal with you. I want to see the facility shut down. I just have a personal belief that it's one of many contributing factors to the cancer in our community, as well as the problems of respiratory illnesses in our community. And again, it's my opinion that it's one of the contributory factors. And no one can tell me that there's no particular matter that is going into the air that is causing health problems for our community. And anybody who would like to say different, they lack their knowledge in science and medicine. Because what you can't prove today, you might be able to prove tomorrow. And that said, there's too many people with leukemia and solid organ cancers that live within that area, both in Saugus as well as in Revere. And in fact, several people that were at the meeting over at the Point of Pines Yacht Club.
Councilor, keep them to the 3-minute rule here.
Thank you. Had serious concerns about it as they were affected with cancer and also lived in the area. That said, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morabito.
Thank you. Mr. President, is the representative from Wheeler Breda here to answer
Yes, but
questions?
why don't we just keep it to the
Okay, so
motion of the
I'm
mission, rather
going
than the
to make my
cross-examining of an
statement, and if he
individual.
wants to answer, he can answer. My concern is, when they were before the council in 2016, for the same concern, noises coming from Wheeler Breda, they had said that there was a lot of noise coming from their facility. They shut down one boiler to reduce the noise, and then they shut down the second boiler. And they had fixed the silencer over the weekend. So from 2016 to 2019, I guess my question is, how often do these silences go? Can we learn from that lesson and have a backup on hand, or do something to prevent this? Because it isn't the first time.
What I would imagine in the best interest of the Wheeler Breda is that they took this under consideration, and I'm sure they're not sitting back waiting to make a determination. They're probably got something in plan.
Mr.
State
President.
your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Can I just make a point of information?
We've already gone on that.
No, but I just want to make a point of information. He misunderstands that the silencer is not the issue. The turbine is the issue that's replaced every several years. The silencer was just a temporary thing to try to mitigate the noise that was going on because the turbine was being rebuilt. There's two different issues, silencer and turbine.
Thank you for your point of information. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. I also attended that meeting at the Point of Pines Yacht Club. And I'd just like to share with you a few words that the residents shared about what their concerns really are. Toxicity, cancer, health, safety. These came from our residents. These are their concerns. This noise, this is just a feather on the camel's back. I called Saugus Police when this noise started, and I was told to call Revere Police. They blamed us. They said it was construction on 107. I took a ride down there, and I'd like to share with you what I found. This is the noise that residents have had to deal with overnight. I'm talking as early as 3 and 4 in the morning. This is unacceptable. To sit here and convolute and say that it's GE with test engines, incorrect. Look again. What we need right now is for Revere City Council to advocate for the residents of the Riverside and Point of Pines and send communication to Saugus. Ask that they hold Wheelabrator accountable. Enough is enough. Also, I've reached out to the Mass DEP, and you guys are all on this email chain. Every one of you has received this. I cannot get a response to get air control quality testing in the Riverside and Point of Pines. They test other nearby communities, yet they do not test Revere. As Councilor Rotundo alluded to, we have higher cancer rates. Why are we not testing the air? In addition to the noise, as they've worked to repair the boiler, the turbine, whatever it may be, residents have also reported strange smells related to ammonia is the most common smell, or hair dye. What is this smell, and how are we sure that this isn't actually hurting our residents? I'd like an answer, and I'd like for this council to send communication to the Mass DEP requesting an air quality test in the Riverside and Point of Pines. Thank you.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor? Comes to the podium.
Okay. All right. Okay. I know this council likes to deal in facts, so I'm going to give you a fact. My husband worked at the GE for 44 years in the jet engine aircraft part of the GE. He heard the noise over at Wheelabrator. It is not from the General Electric. I like the way people go deny, 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 and maybe, that's the way we're going to go with this route. But the fact remains that this incinerator is the oldest incinerator in the entire country. Not in Massachusetts, but in the entire country. It's over 40 years old. They're trying to retrofit a 40-year-old, and it's never going to work. The noise that you heard, and that the people, it wasn't a few days, it was actually 6 weeks, and it continues still. You can blame GE, you can blame the jet engines that are going over, but it's not. These people have lived, and they call and they cry. I mean, it is unbearable what they've had to go through. So this is a fact. This is what these people have been listening to for 6 weeks. Now think about this. This was taken in someone's backyard. This isn't next to the plant. It's taken in someone's backyard. That's a fact. That's what these people have been listening to for 6 weeks.
Mr. President, can I just interject?
She has.
I know, just for 1 second.
She has the floor.
I just want to point out that was at night, and I don't believe they test planes at night.
They do not.
Counselor, she has the floor.
So not only do these people have to put up with that sound, and the sound, they're saying that it's only because of the retrofitting that they were doing. No, this happens fairly frequently throughout the year. It's happened more than once. I'd also like to address the fact that this incinerator, it doesn't just have the noise. That's probably the least of our worries. During that time, and during many times, black smoke, they call it steam, orange steam comes out of there. I agree with Eric. We need to make sure that the Riverside in particular and the Point of Pines have air quality monitoring and noise monitoring, because this isn't just a new issue. This has been going on, never to the extent where it's been for 6 weeks. So those are the facts. These people had to live with this, and they continue to do so. And I appreciate the council for having the nerve to get up here and to fight for their constituents, or at least most of you. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Next is this, under suspension is calendar item number 41, which is relative to Wheeler Brader.
Calendar item number 41, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor be requested to divest the city of Revere from Wheeler Brader and not accept any funds. Further, that the city of Revere work on a zero waste stream.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. As I said earlier, we're kind of in a difficult position with our tipping fees, considering what was negotiated by then Mayor Rizzo. However, I would like to work forward in trying to get the city working towards a zero waste stream. And what that is that we recycle to the point and actually have a compost where we don't have to actually send out waste to Wheeler Brader, or at least a very small amount. And more importantly, as much as we can, work towards that goal. But at this point, I think we're stuck with a contract with them for at least several years. And to be honest with you, it just, it saddens me. It saddens me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Very briefly, Mr. President, but now bringing up the second part of the motion, I just wanted to, first of all, and I was remiss in not recognizing Representative Vincent's efforts in doing everything she can for those residents most severely impacted in the Riverside and in the Point of Pines area. She has been a staunch advocate for them, and she really deserves our admiration and our thanks. Eric Lampedecchio really opened up my eyes when he said that we're the only community where they're not testing the air quality. I mean, that to me is crazy, and we should be doing something about it. As you think about that plant, and it's the oldest facility of its type in the country right now. Maybe when it was built 40 years ago, maybe it was a place where people thought might be appropriate, but not today. With the population growth and the advances that we now have with regards to the way waste is disposed of and you know, environmentally how things are treated, that plant itself really has no business here. I don't think anybody is against having our trash taken care of. We know our trash needs to be taken care of. It just doesn't need to be taken care of a few hundred yards away from a very densely populated area. I mean, I think it's time that whether it's the state or the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, department, start to look for an alternative site to put this. I mean, instead of keep granting extension after extension after extension, and then all the problems that we know are coming with it because of the age of that facility and because it's the only unlined facility there and because we really don't know what's coming out of those stacks. It should be in a more isolated area that's more appropriate to take care of trash and not in an area where people live and just trying to have a little bit of quality of life that they have to look across at that every day and now be just further and further impacted by problems, probably because of the age of the facility itself. So I think it's time to start looking at moving that facility in a more appropriate location, and maybe that's something we can start to initiate the discussion on. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad my colleague to my right backed off of the divesting, and because I would have had to say that it was the most fiscally irresponsible motion I've ever seen since I've been up here. But he understands that we have a lucrative tipping fee. We pay, City of Boston pays $93. We pay $76. Or whatever, but it's significant. It's at least $20 less per ton. I think we put 80,000 tons of trash in 2018 into the system. So I mean, we're talking megabucks to divest from Wheeler Brader outside of the contract would cost us, $5 million over the next 4 years, which is, taxpayers' dollars. A couple of other things I gotta say. There was a 2017 Mass Health study that proved that there was no adverse health effects in the air from wheel abrader. The other thing is DEP does do air testing, and they have done air testing in Revere. I know that for a fact. I don't know where you're getting your information. Mine is factual.
Where are you getting yours?
I got it from DEP.
So did I.
Okay, but through the
We're
chair,
not talking to the
we
same
have a
people.
speaker.
The bottom line is that there's talk about unlined landfill. Lining in a landfill is a piece of plastic, like a pool liner. If a nail hits it, and go through it. There's 4 feet of blue clay up there. You couldn't penetrate it with a bulldozer. That's why DEP approves it. No water goes off that site that's not filtered. Nothing escapes the clay up there. But nobody wants to hear the facts. They just want to make up what feel-good stuff is. These are the facts. I can prove them, and that's the story. But again, I thank my colleague for not wanting to put the taxpayers in trouble, and I rest my case.
Councilor Rotundo for 1 minute.
Thank you. And he's exactly correct. And I actually solicited Robert Mara, Chief of Staff, and sure enough, Councilor Rizzo had negotiated a contract that is beyond words. The tipping fees, which began at $64 per ton, January 30th, 2015, and conclude to, it says here, June 30th, 2024. So I would never recommend that we remove ourselves from that type of a plan. I will tell you this much. There is no scientist that would unequivocally state that one company or one particular facet is not capable of causing any cancer, because they can't prove it. Mass Health, I want to see the study.
Thank you, Councilor.
Council President.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
I just have to talk about
State your name and address for the record, please.
Rosalie Vincent, 350 Revere Beach Boulevard. We're talking facts. The fact is, Saugus Wheel Abraders ash landfill is the only unlined ash landfill in operation in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's listed under DEP as an unlined ash landfill. A clay slurry wall is not a liner. That would never, ever be allowed by today's standards. It would never be allowed in an area of critical environmental concern. It would never be allowed in the marsh. It would never be allowed to be in that location today. It remains because of a consent order that DEP has allowed extensions to. To say that this unlined ash landfill with its clay slurry wall is better than the liner that is made of plastic that is supposed to be lasting for I don't know how many years is not a fact. If we want to deal in facts, the fact remains it is the only unlined landfill still operating in the Commonwealth, and if you look under DEP, it will say such a thing. It is an unlined ash landfill. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Limpidecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. I apologize if I was out of line earlier. I just wanted to clarify that I did get my facts from the Mass DEP. Councilor Rotundo, I think this is a great motion, and I am in favor of going towards a more green economy in the area, and I think if we can get to zero waste, that would be incredible.
Thank you. Councilor Morabito.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, can I recommend that on Councilor Rotundo's motion that we separate the two, because they're two...
We already voted on the last one. Now we're on 41.
Actually, yeah, exactly. There's two... You're putting it on file?
We're talking,
I'd like to, yeah.
31 has already been voted on.
I understand. We're
Now
speaking on 41.
41.
But I was asking if we could separate the motion and wouldn't vote in on it, because there's two different subject matters, but he's withdrawing
Excuse me,
it.
we have done that. We've already voted on the first one, on 39.
No, you're not understanding me, Mr. President. 41, there's two subject
wants to
matters,
withdraw?
but regardless, he's withdrawing
If you
it.
want to withdraw it, you should have withdrawn it a half an hour ago. You know, the question is now moot, we're asking on withdrawal. All in favor, all opposed? 41 has been withdrawn. Motion to go back to the regular order of business. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Back to the regular order of business. Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 6 is the zoning subcommittee report.
Chairman Zambudo. Chairman Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we all know, the zoning subcommittee met this evening. We had one order of business. It was the National Grid conduit. That was reported out favorably from the zoning subcommittee. I would ask for a roll call vote.
Shall the City Council grant the petition of National Grid to install an underground conduit on Ward Street in accordance with Plan Number 265-92278? Roll call is in order.
On the motion, Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Rotundo. Yes, Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Guinasso.
Yes.
Yes, the petition has been granted.
Petition is approved.
Calendar item number 7 is the Public Safety Subcommittee report.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had 4 items on our agenda today. The first one was 18-352 regarding information from the National Grid regarding preparation for winter storms. We tabled that one.
That's tabled.
18-355, motion by Councilor Rizzo that the police chief appear before the City Council to discuss the increase in crime on Broadway, Coolidge Street, and Rose Street back in October of 2018, and that was placed on file. And number 19-98, motion by Councilor Rotundo regarding the towing of cars after five tickets that weren't paid, and the committee placed that on file. 19-105, a motion by Councilor Rotundo that the city look into the feasibility of placing Narcan and AED devices that serve in public and have public restrooms, and that was placed on file.
On the report of the Chairman of Public Safety, we'll table number 7, and 8, 9, and 10 have been placed on file. Madam Clerk, committee report from Councilwoman Janino.
Yes, that's calendar item number 11.
11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this evening, the appointment subcommittee met just prior to the committee of the whole meeting. There was one item on our agenda, however, we did take up 2 things as late that will come up later in the council meeting under communications. The first item on the agenda was calendar item 19-141, reappointment of Tufts Construction as a licensed drain layer. We're going to keep this in committee for 1 more week, and the clerk is going to notify them. This is the second time that they have not appeared before committee. And the second and third, which were taken up as late, we'll address during communications. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Madam Clerk.
Pursuant to Rule 23 of the City Council Rules of Order, the following motions are being reported out of committee with a recommendation to be placed on file. Calendar item number 12, motion presented by Councilors McKenna and Janino, that the city clerk be requested to research and draft an ordinance banning plastic straws and stirrers.
Place on file.
Calendar item number 13, motion presented by Councilor Morbido, that the mayor be requested to investigate the feasibility of consolidating trash pickup to Monday through Wednesday.
Place on file.
Calendar item number 14, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the City of Revere develop a linkage fee for residential and commercial development.
Place on file.
Calendar item number 15, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the city investigate the feasibility of providing a owner-occupied tax incentive for first responders.
Place on file.
Calendar item number 16, motion presented by Councilor Morabito that the mayor be requested to establish a fund which allows 30% of revenue from any short-term rental local tax to go towards affordable housing assistance, subject to the approval of the city council.
Place on file.
Mr. President, can we
Councilor
refer that to
Morabito.
committee?
Want to keep it in committee?
Please.
On the request of Councilor Morabito, we keep that in committee.
Calendar item number 17, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the City of Revere proceed with a 6-month moratorium on all residential properties greater than 6 units within the City of Revere.
Place it on file.
Calendar item number 18, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Anthony Veras as a constable for the City of Revere.
For its appointment subcommittee.
Calendar item number 19, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of William Levy as a constable for the City of Revere.
Councilor Janino.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This appointment was taken up during a subcommittee earlier this evening as a late communication. It was voted out unanimously in favor. It is a reappointment, and I recommend that this be voted out favorably this evening.
On the request of the appointment chair, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 20, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Sean Farrell Excavation, Inc. as a licensed drain layer.
For its appointment subcommittee.
Calendar item number 21, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Insight Contracting, Inc. as a licensed drain layer.
Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the third motion that was taken up as a late communication under my subcommittee earlier this evening. This was also taken up favorably by the Committee of the Whole, and I recommend that the council vote on this favorably as well this evening. They have a pending project on North Shore Road.
At the request of Chairwoman Janino, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Calendar item number 23, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the following special legislation be approved and forwarded to the state delegation. An act relative to duck hunting in densely populated areas. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in general court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1, no person shall hunt fowl by firearm, arrow, or other means on the tidal lands or 1,500 yards seaward from the shoreline at Revere Beach or the Point of Pines Beach in the City of Revere to ensure the public safety of the residents of the City of Revere and visitors to Revere Beach and its use as a place of recreation and open space. Whoever commits any offense described in this section shall be punished by a fine of not less than $2,000 nor more than $5,000. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know this is going into subcommittee, but I just want to say it's all about safety. We're here to make our residents and beachgoers safe. Duck hunters are shooting from the ocean into the beach while people are there. Shell casings and duck carcasses are washing up on our shores during the duck hunting season. And ammunition can carry far beyond the extended target. This is a fact. We should not compromise people's safety. Thank you.
Motion going to Subcommittee of Legislative Affairs, Councilor Keefe's Subcommittee.
Calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo that the mayor provide the City Council with the full report of the findings regarding the police chief assessment that was initiated in April of 2017.
Councilor Rizzo.
Very briefly, Mr. President, this preceded my return to the City Council, and I don't know if the council received a copy of the report. I know it was a publicly funded assessment, so, and I know in watching the meetings, we were promised that we would receive a copy at its conclusion, but I never personally received a copy. I don't know if anybody else did, but I didn't, and so this should be very easy. If I could just get a copy of it, that would be appreciated.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 25 has been requested to be withdrawn by the councilor as it is a double motion.
Motion to withdraw, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor be requested to have the city's state and federal delegations address regulators regarding noise emanating from Wheelabrator and Saugus.
Councilor Rotundo.
Speaks for itself.
On motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 27, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo, that the mayor provide the city council with any communications filed with the Massachusetts State Gaming Commission relevant to applying for mitigation funds through the state's Community Mitigation Fund.
Councilor Rizzo.
Once again, Mr. President, very briefly, there has been a lot of talk lately from the administration in terms of studies and impacts and fees associated with that. And I'm not sure what studies have been done so far to assess any impacts that may arise from Encore and Everett. But I think it bears noting that there has always been a community mitigation fund that was set up through the Gaming Act back in November 2011 that 6.5% of all gaming revenues go into, as well as 10% of all application fees from all entities. So I don't know exactly how much is in that fund, but safe to say it's in the millions at this point. And so if the city is recognizing any direct impacts from this operation in Everett, we have more than ample funds available through this fund to apply for, and all we need to do is just document what we need it for and why we need it. So I would like to know if this fund has been, applied to and understand, what efforts have been taken to access these funds.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Rizzo, how far back do you want to go on this? Because I'm sure, how many years?
Really, just
5 years, 6 years?
Can't be, it has to be the.
Because the money's been available ever since coming in from different licenses.
Absolutely. So when you recognize impacts, I hear the administration now talking about impacts, and so of course, the facility was just opened a couple of months ago. So, but I just want to know where there's been all this conversation, involving surrounding community agreements, what efforts have been made to access these funds, because there is millions of dollars available.
On the motion,
Mr. President, if I may.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Well, I understand the mayor just put together an advisory committee to look into that, to see what mitigations we need. And that's why he put that big committee together last month. And I believe there were some funds given about 3-4 years ago for traffic mitigation. And so,
Well, we'll find out when this motion is.
but I think the monies have been going back since the people were putting licenses in. It's not only since the building was started.
No, the fund was created with the Gaming Act in 2000. Through you, Mr. President. The fund was created in November of 2011 with the Gaming Act. Of course, we didn't have any impacts, certainly when I left the mayor's office in 2016. The construction hadn't even started yet. Now here we are in 2019, and this whole issue about surrounding community agreements are now coming up again, when really anyone that has impacts, you don't need to even be a surrounding community to access these funds. So it's a very straightforward motion. I mean, I don't know, do you take exception with it, or?
No, I just want to know how, the time frame that we're looking at. We're looking back to 13 when they started putting their licenses.
We can look back as far as that. We can go back to 2011. I just want to know what efforts have been made to access funding for these impacts, that may or may not be realized by the city of Revere.
Could we include that year in the motion, please?
Pardon me?
Could we include that year in the motion?
We can include it all.
2011?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I'm just really curious about this particular committee that we have.
But we don't know anything about it yet, so we
I know,
can't
looking
speak
at
on it,
impacts,
so.
and I'm trying to say,
So we're looking at impact. So obviously, traffic congestion is one of them. Do we currently have, a traffic study going on from the mayor's office to mitigate and find out what impacts are we getting from this particular casino? Are we looking at the issues regarding social welfare, such as how many gamblers have been going to this particular facility and now are bankrupt, or lost your house, or lost your car, or lost, the shirt off their back? These are issues that you bring forward to the Gaming Commission. Actually, it's written out in the 2011 law, and it tells you what you can mitigate for and how and why. So what are we actually doing, unless that was just like, a political show? So I want to find out, is it a political show, or are we actually doing something? So I want to find out, do we have a traffic study? Are we searching for people that have gambling problems? Are we searching for these issues in order to mitigate them with the state in order to obtain funding? And when did we start? And when will we end? What are our benchmarks? Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 28, motion presented by Councilor Keefe, that the mayor be requested to have the appropriate departments upgrade and modernize the signalization for pedestrian crosswalks and traffic lights for the entire length of Broadway.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure this will be discussed in subcommittee, but at the end of the day, we have traffic light systems that, when I talk about modernizing Broadway, they don't speak to each other. And in order to ever try to make the situation better than it is currently, we have to have more updated signalization that is talking to each other from one end of Broadway to the other. So we'll
This can be
hopefully
voted on
discuss
this evening, and we can vote on
Appreciate
this.
that.
All in
Thank you.
favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 30, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo, that the mayor appear before the city council in executive session to discuss the ongoing criminal cases in Chelsea District Court regarding stolen water meters and stolen parking meter revenues.
Councilor Rizzo.
The motion is pretty straightforward. We had, unfortunately, 2 employees this month alone that had to appear in Chelsea District Court. I just want to go into executive session and, be provided an update as to what's going on. And I'd also like to know, I'm going to save my comments for executive session. I'd rather not go into it right now, but I would just like the motion to pass as is. Thank you.
Councilor Rotundo.
If Councilor Rizzo is okay with it, I'd like to suspend rules and add 36 with it as it's pertaining to this particular issue. I have some great reservation as to why the mayor utilized a campaign worker who also happens to be a detective, or private investigator, to investigate this particular issue regarding the meters. And I am highly curious as to why we used a private investigator for that instead of, I'm just wondering if you'd like to suspend rules and add to the motion, if that's
Mr.
okay
President.
with Councilor Rizzo.
There are 2 separate items, and I think we should shake them up separately.
Very well, thank you,
On
sorry.
the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 31, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request DCR Commissioner Leo Roy to authorize his staff to order and install LED flashing crosswalk lights on Ocean Ave from Shirley Ave to Revere Street for the safety of all using Ocean Ave and Revere Beach.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, that crosswalk lights on Ocean Ave should also and Shirley Ave.
On the motion?
So, and I did talk to the commission the other night, and it is a budget item, and we don't expect it to be done this year, but the crosswalks on Ocean Avenue from Revere Street down to Shirley Ave are in dark areas. Even though they put new LED lights in there, it's still not bright enough, and it doesn't light up the crosswalk signs that order people to be careful. We did have a young lady get hit there last year, and we just need more protection for the folks on Revere Beach Boulevard and Ocean Ave. So, thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 32, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the City Council award certificates of merit to Joseph Singer and his children, Jana, Mia, and Dominic, for their efforts to save a child from drowning at Sandy Beach in Winchester last September.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe Officer Joey Singer is a living angel. I'm going to offer his story to the council and the viewers at our next meeting. Thank you.
All in favor? All in favor, all opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 33, motion presented by Councilors Morbido and Keefe, that the City Council recognize the 2019 championship baseball and softball teams at the next available City Council meeting. Further, that the City Council hold a pizza party for the championship teams prior to the City Council meeting.
Councilor Morbido.
So I'm going to save my comments for this well-deserved celebration. These kids put their whole heart into this sport, so it's well-deserved that we celebrate them on this occasion, on that day.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will invite these groups, or the groups from St. Mary's Revere Youth Baseball, to the council chambers and do a slight pizza party, so we'll make sure all the other councilors are involved and do something nice for them. But I wanted to congratulate the Flyers from the softball organization completing an undefeated season, the Cubs in the Major League Division winning the championship, the Brewers in the AAA Division winning the championship, the A's in the Minor League Division winning the championship, and in the Babe Ruth Division was the Mustangs. So great job by all the people that spend a lot of time down there, and especially the parents and the kids that were able to enjoy this season. So fantastic job, Revere Youth Baseball and Softball. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors, for the joint motion. This celebration will be held in September at 4 o'clock, and we'll make sure that the kids have plenty of pizza to celebrate. And if they are kind enough to allow us to have a slice, that would be great, too. So sometime in September. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 34, motion presented by Councilors Keefe and Morbido, that the mayor be requested to partner with the state and review the feasibility of creating a pier and water shuttle service from Revere to Logan Airport, downtown Boston, and the Seaport areas.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring it up, and I know this will get discussed further, but this isn't a pie-in-the-sky motion where, this is serious. We are looking for more ways to work on what we have. It's a regional traffic problem, and there's only a few other ways we can create more roads to Boston. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get any expansions on the roadways. Or we can do something by air or something by sea. And we have water. We have waterways. Obviously, we have to build on the infrastructure, but if you're the governor of the state and you have, obviously local delegation and other partnering communities, wouldn't it be nice for someone to jump on a boat every 15 minutes to go to the Seaport area, to go to downtown Boston or Logan Airport, coming from Salem, coming from Lynn, and making the stops along the way, Winthrop, etc. This is a way to take more cars off the road going into the city. It's only going to get more congested over the years, over the next, probably 10, 20, 30 years. And so this is a serious motion that I'd like to really put some effort and time into with other vested people in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morbido.
Thank you, Mr. President. This certainly is an intriguing form of transportation. I believe providing this water service would benefit commuters, residents. It would obviously help with traffic congestion, too. And it would serve as an alternative means of transportation for those who do not have a vehicle. And when the MBTA bus is broken down or the train rails are broken down, I really think this will help streamline. It will be a cost-effectively streamline mobility throughout the whole coastal shore. And I will save more of my comments for subcommittee.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to commend my colleagues. This is a great, great, great motion that I wholeheartedly support, and I look forward to discussing it more in subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo, and I recall this many years ago, Councilor.
How many times?
I put this motion in, and the only one who did not laugh at me that night was Councilor Rotundo. Thank you. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, and in fact, Bob Hass, God rest his soul, also was for this. I am for this. I will tell you what was said to me by Frank Stringy, as well as the Corps of Engineers, that you will have to go out well over 300 feet from where it is. You will have to dredge. However, I think there's a feasibility of putting it over at Holt's Pier, where the jetties are and where Pearview is, because before it was talked about putting it out over at Wonderland, over at the State Police Barracks and going out that way. But no one has ever thought of using the old Holtz Pier to the left side, because the idea is, well, to the right is obviously private property and so forth, because that is the only area that actually has the depth to handle it. The other question that has to be answered is, where are the people going to park the cars in order to access this water shuttle? And then how are they going to get there? So that's something that we have to look at too. And I think that maybe we can look at possibly Suffolk Downs and work with them, because I believe HYM would be thinking this would be something that would benefit them. It is a little pie in the sky, but it's also creative thinking. And I think if we can think outside the box, we might be able to come up with something. And I think it will take time. And I know I'm for it, Arthur's for it, now you guys are for it. I think we got a good fight on our hands, and I support it 100%.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm glad everybody was remembering in the past, because I've been on the council 18 years. I remember 15 years ago, we were talking about this, and we discussed exactly what Councilor Rotundo was talking about, of where they were going to put it. You know, where Holt's Pier was is a perfect spot, and I believe I gave a thought on where the parking would be. And if you know that the south side of the beach, from the pier over to about where the hotels are supposed to be built, is all rock. And my recommendation was eliminate all that beachfront there, build seawall out, and make all parking there. You can fit 1,000 cars in there. And we don't use that, nobody uses that part of the beach. It is, other than the plovers. And it's there to use. And I think that would be part of the recommendation. So, thank you, Mr. President.
State your name and address for the record, please. There you go.
Ed Terrell, 70 Sewell Street, Revere, Mass. As a recommendation, if we use one of the amphibious vehicles that the tour bus uses, we wouldn't need to do all that. We could just park at Wonderland, use the amphibious vehicles, and just go right out into the ocean.
Yeah.
And it would solve all the problems right away.
There you go. Revere scanners first. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 35, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor provide the city council with the number of variances issued to enable the conversion of a single-family dwelling to a legal two-family dwelling.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. To be quite honest with you, this goes back to a conversation that we had several weeks ago, and I would just like to find out where we are with conversions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion.
Just, Mr. President, just a question to you, to Councilor Rotundo.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Why?
Because someone had asked for that information, and I'm going to give them that information. It's constituent. There's several motions on here that actually several constituents have asked for, and I'm going to help them get it.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 36, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor provide the city council with an accurate accounting of the cost and actual services rendered by Robert Selovich in regards to a former employee of the parking department.
Councilor Rotundo.
Just like to know what we spent for a private investigator to investigate a city employee. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Mr. President, I believe this is totally out of order. We don't know if it's really true. It's a fishing expedition.
Point of order.
There's no, Mr. President, I have the floor.
Councilor Novoselsky has the floor.
And it's a fishing expedition. There's no reason to go after, a citizen of the city of Revere. It's a political thing. It's only because he's supporting Mayor Arrigo, and there's no need for this to be investigated. We are not an investigative body. We are legislative. We shouldn't be fishing and digging into people's lives.
Councilor Rotundo.
So this is a matter of fact in law. In fact, if anyone wants to go down to the Chelsea District Court and pull the actual case record, you will find that the city of Revere had Robert Celovich investigate a city employee. If you think that's political, I agree, because it is. If you're not upset with it, that you would have a campaign worker who is also a private investigator investigate a city employee instead of the Revere Police, that's a problem. And if you can't see it, you're blind.
Mr. President, through you, Mr. President.
One more rebuttal here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Mr. President, I believe this happened before Mr. Celovich was on the License Commission, and it was not paid for by the city of Revere.
You would just, point of order, I was just told it was a fishing expedition, that it didn't take place. Now I'm being told it did take place, but only
You're the fishing
it didn't get
expedition,
paid.
Counselor. You're the fishing expedition, not him.
So all I'm saying is I want to know what we paid for and why. We have a police department that does investigations. This is in the court record.
Mr. President,
This
totally out of
This
order.
isn't my fishing
Totally out of order,
expedition.
Mr. President.
They're both out of order. On the motion. All in favor?
No.
On the,
No.
Councilor, on the motion, all in favor, all opposed, Councilor Novoselsky voting?
No.
No.
Mr. President,
Where's it
suspension
coming
of
from?
rules?
Councilor Rotundo.
Suspension of rules in hopes that it does not prevail?
Still
Councilor
votes.
Giannino.
There's councilors who want to vote no.
All right, so now, why don't we ask for a roll call? Roll call's in order. Clerk will repeat the motion, and this is, after the clerk repeats the motion, this will be a roll call vote.
Motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor provide the city council with an accurate accounting of the cost and actual services rendered by Robert Celovich in regards to a former employee of the parking department.
No.
Councilor Giannino, no. Councilor Keefe?
No.
No. Councilor McKenna?
No.
No. Councilor Morabito?
No.
No. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
No.
No. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
No.
No. The motion fails.
The motion to suspend rules, all in favor, all opposed, reconsideration does not prevail. Calendar item number
Calendar
37.
Number 37, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the mayor request the police department to install cameras at all highly trafficked residential intersections as a matter of public safety.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this speaks for itself, but I just came up with the idea because my nephew was painting an electrical box on the corner of Sargent Street and Washington Street, and that intersection is really heavy and used by people cutting through or going to Route 1. Unfortunately, the electrical box got tagged, and there was no cameras that were visible or there. So I'm asking for the city to install cameras where we have very bad intersections for the safety of residents and traffic. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 38, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo that the mayor instruct Northeast Mosquito Control to spray flood-prone areas for mosquitoes that are exceptionally bad this year. Areas would include areas within the 100-year floodplain and by specific request, Oak Island and marsh abutting properties on the north side of Revere Street.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This obviously impacts most every city councilor's, ward councilor's areas. But I think because of the rain that we experienced this past spring, that the mosquito, unfortunately, that the mosquito problem is exceptionally high this year. And, you know, just want to make sure that Northeast Mosquito Control is on it, and that, you know, we don't want to start to hear about cases of West Nile virus, and we know we've got a lot of kids running around, and of course, you know, West Nile, you know, can impact any resident, whether they're children or senior citizens. You know, it can be a very dangerous situation, in addition to being an uncomfortable situation, people unable to sit out in their yards and things like that. So I just want to make sure that that we know, that the city council knows what is happening with respect to Northeast Mosquito Control, and that it is being addressed in a way that's going to have a positive impact and a positive outcome. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Great motion. I'm surrounded by mosquitoes.
Mr. President?
Councilor McKenna.
Could I ask Councilor Rizzo to amend McMacken-Field to be included in his motion, please?
Absolutely, Councilor. Through you, Mr. President, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And any areas that, in any ward, that might experience an uptick of what would be considered normal. Because, as I say, it was a very difficult spring, a lot of water, a lot of opportunity for mosquitoes to foster themselves.
Point of
So, thank you.
information.
Yeah.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, through you to Councilor Rizzo, if I can ask for another amendment for the creek behind the Garfield School and the Standish Road area, out to North Shore Road. Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to be a party pooper here, but I think McMacken Field is private property. I don't think we can do that legally. So I would ask for a legal.
I tend to agree with you.
I would ask for a legal opinion before we do
We've
it.
done it. We've done it since I was
All
a
I want is a
counselor.
legal opinion. That's fine
Okay,
with
no,
me.
I'm just giving you a point of information.
All right.
It's fine for me.
I'll tell you,
If we can get legal approval, I'm with it.
Thank you,
I
Councilor.
just don't want to do anything illegal.
I think it's suffice to say that this motion is really, really needed based on the fact that mosquitoes are out there in such numbers that it's a really alarming situation. And you'll witness tonight, especially with a humid night like this evening, you're going to find that each backyard in that community is infested with mosquitoes. And there's dormant water all about because of the rainfall we've been receiving. And so this is very, very dangerous. And all areas that can be sprayed, we hope that they get to. And it's a great motion. Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 39, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor provide the city council with the cost of summer nights.
Councilor Rotundo.
Speaks for itself.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 40, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor provide the city council with a list of properties taxed as two-family dwellings that were requested to remove a bath or kitchen to conform to code over the last 12 months.
Councilor Rotundo.
Speaks for itself.
On the motion, all in favor, all
No.
opposed?
Request to vote
Councilor Novoselsky wishes to be recorded as no. 41 has been withdrawn.
Calendar item number 40.
Mr. President,
Council.
motion to suspend rules in order for the motion not to be opposed.
Excuse me?
Reconsideration, thank you, my
Hope that
fatigue.
does not prevail. All in favor, all opposed? Reconsideration does not prevail. Calendar item number 42.
Motion presented by Councilor Rizzo, that the mayor request Revere TV to explore the feasibility of establishing closed captioning for Revere City Council meetings for the hearing impaired. Also, that additional local programming be included in this proposal whenever possible.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And, Mr. President, I have to say this is as a result of a conversation with Mrs. Guanasso, who apparently was talking with some people who would have liked to have seen some closed captioning, people that like to watch the council meetings but may be hearing impaired, and
Most of her sisters.
where it was her idea. I should include you as a co-sponsor on the motion.
Oh, I'm fine.
But in any case, I think it's an excellent idea. You know, I've had people talk to me about technical difficulties and sound going in and out, but it never really occurred to me that there may be people at home that might want to watch it, but because we don't have closed captioning, they can't. So if there's a way to do that, that's costly for Revere, that is cost effective, or that is within their capabilities to do so, it would be good to have Revere TV be able to help those people who might need it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to, through you, I want to thank you, Councilor Rizzo, for renewing my request from 5 years ago when you were the mayor. But 5 years ago, I spoke to Bob Dunbar about this just this past weekend when I saw your motion. And this is something I put in 5 years ago at the council. And back then, the technology was very expensive. There wasn't anything that was reasonable without getting someone watching TV and actually doing typing on a computer to make it go on the TV. But he said there are now programs that are a lot less reasonable, and it is a possibility. Now, I'm affected by this directly with my wife. She cannot watch a city council meeting without knowing what's going on. She is deaf, does not understand what's happening on a council meeting. I do have closed caption in my house.
That's why she gets along so well with you.
That's right. That's right. We haven't spoken to each other in 49 years. But, you know, I want to thank you because I do hope it goes through. It is, you know, one of her dreams that, you know, she can do and watch the cable TV for the city council.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to commend Councilor Rizzo for this motion. I think it's a great motion. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 43, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor look into the feasibility of utilizing Enforce 911 for our schools. This app and system is being used in Worcester, Arlington, and Medway.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. This is an app that, sadly, due to the environment that we were in today, we heard about the shooting in Gilroy, we heard about shootings in various schools. This particular app, our students and our teachers can actually download, and what it does is it assists the police to locate a shooter. Some very important facts that you should know, and one of the reasons why we should get this app for our community. The average time for 911 call to go to a first responder is anywhere between 1 and 3 minutes. The average response time to an active school shooting is 12.5 minutes. And during an active shooter incident, one person is shot every 15 seconds. This is from their particular software, and that's their statement of fact. And when I looked it up through the national database, it kind of is within that realm. This is something that is very cost efficient, and God forbid if we ever had to use it, would save lives. But there's also other mechanisms on it that can also help the police as well. So that said, I would like to pass this up to the mayor and obviously the chief and see if this is something that we can utilize. I think it would work very, very well. I suggest everybody, if you can, go on your phone and go take a look at the app. It's called Enforce 911, and it takes 2 seconds to download and look at and get some firsthand knowledge. Thank you.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And this is an excellent, excellent motion. We should be exploring. I don't know if this exact program, I mean, I'm happy that Councilor Rotundo is bringing this one forward, but there's obviously programs that are out there that, you know, can help us protect our students and our faculty and our administrators, obviously. So far, just in 2019, across the United States, there have been 22 separate school shootings. And, you know, these are mass shootings, acts of violence against students who went to school that day, never expecting anything bad to happen. It's scary. I mean, I don't know what has caused this epidemic that it seems we've been living with for many, many years now. But I do believe that we need to do everything that we possibly can and give everybody the tools, right down, you know, right from the police department down to the students themselves. Give them the tools to protect themselves, because I'm sure of these 22 incidents that happened across the country so far this year, none of those students went to school that day. None of those teachers went to school that day. None of those parents sent their kids off to school that day, suspecting that they'd be getting a phone call later on that day that there was an act of violence at that school. So I think this is absolutely something that we need to be looking at as a community, and I want to commend Councilor Rotundo for this motion. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you. Mr. President, this sounds like a great app, but, you know, I'd like to know more about it, and I'd like to know how much it costs, you know, how much it would cost the city. I would like to see it go in committee, and we can talk about it, and then have the chief come up and discuss it, and find out what kind of numbers, and maybe bring in someone from the app company to explain it to us, and, you know, give us a better idea of what it is and what it really can do. So I would request that it be put into
You have any objections to that, Councilor?
Public Safety Committee or something.
I'd like a letter to go to Chief Guido and let him engage them. I think he is our public safety officer.
Well, we can send that to our Public Safety
Yep,
Committee,
and I
the
have
chair
no
can
problem.
ask
No.
Chief Guido.
I have no problem with it going to the Public Safety Committee. Ira, you know my wishes. I'd like the chief to actually vanguard this, because in the end, it'll be his yes or no, and then obviously we'll have to deal
Well, I
with the
think
finances.
that's a good point, and I think that with Councilor Novoselsky, who's the chair of Public Safety, he knows your wishes and he knows your concerns about
Yep,
having the
and
chief
I'll
address it
contact the
also.
chief, and I'll contact the company and see if we can get them to come up.
The chair can do that through his
Okay,
subcommittee.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to explore, while we're talking about school shootings and everything, I know they're teaching kids now how to tourniquet a wound so kids don't bleed out. I think we should start having courses around here for that, to teach kids how to tourniquet. I don't know how to put a tourniquet on something, on an arm
I'll
if it
show
was
you.
bleeding. But I think that's something that we should explore as a council and maybe move forward, and maybe
Well, I
Councilor
noticed that you're part
Rotundo.
of Public Safety, so you can.
Yeah,
join
Councilor
with the chair.
Rotundo could lead the way for that.
Yeah, and he's part of Public Safety also.
Okay, thank you.
So you three of you can get together with the other members of the Public Safety, and you can do it. Thank you. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 45, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor direct the chief of police to arrange a meeting with the commander of the state police barracks to discuss speeding on 1A. Further, that MassDOT be contacted to look into the feasibility of installing adequate and illuminated signage as prescribed by Massachusetts general law.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the past several years, we had a fatality down on John Avenue at the intersection of 1A. We had a fatality down in Oak Island, the intersection of Oak Island Street and 1A. And more recently, we had a fatality on 1A, person on a moped or a motor scooter or something to that effect. I think it's high time that the enforcement be beefed up down there. We start writing tickets, no matter where they come from. If they're speeding up there 70, 80, 85 miles an hour, it should be addressed. I've spoken recently with Mass DOT about the possibility of putting in some of these stanchions that would have on it the prescribed speed limit for that roadway, and also a monitor that would flash and tell you just how fast you are going. And I think I've had a good response back from them. And I think that's important because it is a deterrent to speeding. When people look and it says 40 miles an hour, or 50 miles an hour, and they're doing 60, 65 miles an hour, I think it does tend to make them slow down a little. It makes them aware of how fast they're going. And I think this is so important, particularly on 1A. It's anywheres from the bridge when they're coming by John Avenue all the way down to Revere Street. It's very important. And
Thank
we've
you,
had too
Counsel.
many problems down there. Thank you,
On the
Mr.
motion, all in
President.
favor, all
Excuse
opposed?
me.
Oops, sorry, Eric.
No worries. Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Councilor Powers, thank you for putting this motion. I believe this is your third motion on this repeat issue, and we just can't seem to get any help down there. I believe since the last motion was issued, we've had another vehicle into the Pines River. It is a speedway, and we need some help down there, and hopefully we can get the state involved and actually get some jurisdiction.
You two guys can get together.
We'll tag team it.
And Mr.
All right.
President,
You know one another?
to the clerk, I would like to add to that, I want a response back from the police department with regard to this.
On the motion, as amended by the maker of the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so ordered. Calendar item 46.
And it's noted that Councilor Zambudo was recused from calendar items number 45 and 46.
Okay, so noted.
Motion presented by Councilor Keefe that the mayor request our state delegation to assist in requesting MassDOT to clean up the breakdown lane on Route 1 from the Chelsea line to the Route 16 ramp. Further, that MassDOT be requested to paint the Mountain Avenue overpass.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Mountain Ave overpass, I've requested a number of times to be cleaned up, painted. I've even asked if we had permission to do that on our own, and I could try and help organize a group to get it done. I'm just looking for some sort of form of a response, so this wouldn't be the first request I had through the Mass DOT. And I've also reached out to our representatives or our state senate in regards to cleaning up the breakdown lane from pretty much when you get off the Tobin Bridge and you take it right before you get onto the Route 16 Revere Beach Parkway exit. It's completely littered. It's a good 6 foot by 200-yard stretch of road that is, you could get a shovel out. You can get your car and get a shovel, and that's how much debris and rock and litter is on the side of the road. We just need to get someone from the DOT down there to clean up that area. I'd help. Little help would go a long way. Thank you.
Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that if Councilor Keefe would add on to that the on-ramp on Sergeant Street to Route 1 South, and probably the off-ramp too. And he's absolutely correct that both sides of 1A from Chelsea to the entrance of 16 and down to Route 60. A mess. It's been like, I've called a couple of times over there, and it's really terrible how they treat the throwing their stuff out of their cars. But I would request you add those. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilor Keefe for bringing this up, because I go by this location a lot coming back from Boston, and from the Webster Street off-ramp to the Route 16 off-ramp is a disaster.
It's absolutely the worst I've ever seen.
It's horrible, and I want to
disgrace that the
congratulate him
Commonwealth
for
allowed
bringing
that
it
to
up.
stay there.
I'm not sure about the Mountain Ave overpass. I'll leave that up to you, but I support you about the cleaning up of Route 1.
This is absolutely
Thank you.
necessary. Yeah, I agree with you. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so ordered.
Calendar item number 47, motion presented by Councilor Powers that the mayor request inspectional services to address the overgrowth and vegetation at 60 VFW Parkway. Further, that the property at the corner of Harris Street and Beach Street be addressed with regards to graffiti on the wall.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. The property at 60 Revere Beach Parkway, VFW Parkway, rather, it's terrible looking. I mean, it's nothing but trees and bushes and everything growing. And as a matter of fact, I went by there today, and in one instance, there is a mass highway sign there that the foliage is covering. It's insane. You're driving up there, there's supposed to be a sign there to tell you to stop or do this or do that, and it's covered. And I think the Inspectional Services Department should get out there as quickly as possible and address that. Thank you, Mr. President.
I agree with you, Council. On the motion, all in favor?
Excuse me.
All opposed? Oh, Eric. Time for Eric.
Eric Liberdecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. This is yet another good motion by Council Powers tonight. Graffiti's plaguing our city at the moment, as Council McKenna alluded to earlier, with the switch box that was defaced, and we have another switch box that's defaced at the corner of Revere Street and American Legion Highway. Graffiti's a major problem, and I'd like to see the city really step up and get some enforcement in that area. Also, I know Beautify Revere has events throughout the year, and perhaps maybe we can get on their calendar and get a Beautify event going to clean up some of the graffiti throughout our city.
Okay, thank you for your comments. On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Madam Clerk? No further business. The City Council will stand adjourned until August 19th. Thank you for your attendance, and good night. Charlie?